Hello and welcome back to History on the Hoof. Today we're continuing our ride up Foul Clough Road, the old coal road built in the 1790s across Inchfield Moor above Todmorden to bring coal down to the factories in the valley. In the previous episode we spoke about the settlement that grew up around Foul Clough, Walnock and Kulum pits and had a look at Vicarage and High Wycombe Farm, or what became the Moorcock pub. In order to get colliers to their mines, the Haigs built accommodation to bolster the already full farms around and about, filling the vicarage houses and cottages and adding buildings to the Moorcock pub. One of these other dwelling sites was Pothouse, the remains of which are behind the Moorcock up there on the hill. It was probably built in the first quarter of the 19th century. The first reference I've come across being a baptism of a collier's daughter in 1831. In the 1841 census, 3 families were living here, or 11 people, including children. By 1891, it was empty. Up on the hill are the striking ruins of Kulum, but just leaving them aside for a moment, we'll continue on to the last house on the road, which is the aptly named Top of All, often misspelled on maps as Top of Hall. Just passing a ruin of an old barn there on the right, and quite a lovely little culvert bridge on the left, which we'll swing to in a moment. At almost 1,200 feet above sea level, Top of All is a very lonely spot. It's first mentioned in 1784 and owned by George Travis, the Clerk Archdeacon of the Diocese of Chester, who owned quite a bit of land here. It was a working farm, the farmer being one Isaac Howarth, who, along with his family, must have been quite tough to survive up here and eke a living, especially since the 1780s experienced some quite severe weather events and is known as one of the coldest decades on record. In 1797, the Haigs became tenants, putting in the road as part of the development of the area, and in 1823 bought it from John Travis for £1,400, or £1.5 million today, which included 165 acres and the vicarage dwellings, along with coal mines and mineral rights. In 1799, the first mention of the place in the parish registers records the baptism of Anne, the daughter of John and Betty Haig. In 1868, the Leeds Mercury newspaper recorded a John Haig, a descendant, died in his chair whilst reading. I guess there are many worse ways to go. On the 22nd of August 1895, the Haig family put Top of All Farm, together with the mines, minerals, lands and buildings, up for auction at the White Hart Inn in Todmorden. When the bidding reached £1,050, the lot was withdrawn. Top of All was still standing in 1938, but sadly this is all that remains. We'll turn round here, which will please the horses, our little solid today, and return to have a look at Kulum and the mines. On the road to Foul Clough mine are the ruins of Kulum, built by the Haigs probably in the early 1800s to house mine workers. It's a funny old name, and I think it originates in the word coal ham, mangled as spoken language does, to Kulum. In the church registers, where it was first mentioned, it lists a baptism in 1801, and it was written there as coal ham. There are many other variations. In 1841, it housed 4 families, 31 men, women and children, an 8-year-old boy, James Crowther, being the youngest worker, a coal drawer, with others slightly older, including 2 sisters, Mary, aged 12, and Alice Stott, who was 10 years old, and they were also working as coal drawers. There is no mention of Kulum in the 1891 census, and it can be pretty certain that it emptied with the closure of the mines. As we're riding up here, we're riding parallel with a tramway that brought down coal, that's on the right hand side, passing an old winding house and a tunnel that the chains and trucks passed through. On the left there you can see the access to the house. It was recorded in some sources that the Haigs actually let rooms to families, which explains why there are so many people living in such a small building. As we continue the climb up the hill towards Foul Clough mine, we look over to the left there along the track. That leads to the later Kulum mine, just out there along the moor. In front are the remains of Foul Clough mine, the tips and the spoil heaps, the engine bed, loading bays and entrance to the drift mine. The benchmark up here has a reading of 1,325 feet above sea level. It makes me think of going to work in the dark, working in the dark and coming home in the dark in the winter months. It's the men, women and children. I think you'll agree it's a very interesting spot and just goes to show what stories old ruins hold. I hope you've enjoyed these episodes of History on the Hoof and look forward to talking to you again soon. If you've liked it, please do subscribe.